Hello family and welcome back. In today's tutorial I'll be guiding you on how to cut and sew this stylish 360-degree flare dress with puffy sleeves. Kindly don't forget to subscribe if it's your first time interacting with my channel. Also like and leave a comment in the comment section. And to begin drafting, I'll make use of this pattern paper which is folded into two from this edge, and I'm going to begin with front part. First I'll draw a line at the top edge for shoulder line, and after that I'll just label it as shoulder line. So guys, here a measurement whereby bust line is 12 inches, then under bust line is 15 inches. And with that, what I'll do next is take bust line measurement from shoulder line at 12 inches. And then next is shoulder line to under bust line at 15 inches. And lastly to bodice full length at 18 inches. Then I'll just square out horizontal lines across the marks. We'll now go ahead and label each of the lines, starting with bust line, under bust line, bodice full length, or you can call it half length. On to the next step, which is to draw normal front neckline, whereby I'm using 3 inches neck depth by 3 inches neck width. And again, by use of a French curve ruler, I'll draw neckline in that manner. Let's now measure half shoulder measurement on shoulder line from center front. And for my client, it's 7.5 plus 0.5 inches stitching allowance, which equals to 8. I'll then go down by 1 inch from that point for shoulder slope. Thereafter, we'll connect it to neck width with a line like that. For shoulder slope, I want to measure chest line, which is achieved by bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5. From my calculation, I got 8 inches, but I've decided to mark at 8.5 inches. So now I'll go ahead and square out another horizontal line for chest line. Next, I'll carry forward half shoulder measurement to chest line and mark as well. After it, I'll draw a vertical line for armhole depth like that. And moving forward guys, I'll find armhole depth midpoint and put a mark. Next, I'll go in by 0.5 inches from that exact point. Second to that, we'll mark quarter bust circumference on chest line at 9.5 inches so that I'm able to draw armhole curve with these 3 marks using a French curve ruler. And just like that, we're done with the yoke part. I'm going to now mark half bust span on half length at 4 inches and again on bust line. Then we'll draw that depth line using a ruler like that. Next, I'll go down by 1 inch for bust line, then measure 0.75 inches on each side of that dart line, and that's all I'll use in drawing a normal dart. Once I'm through, we'll extend that line a bit and measure 0.5 inches right on the extension from bust line. So now we'll draw a shoulder princess dart from the mark to armhole midpoint using a curve ruler. For that manipulation, I'll measure 0.75 inches on each side of it, and I'm using 0.75 inches since my client is so bustier. From there, I'll draw 2 new curves from these marks down to the mark above bust line. With that, let's extend the first leg of the dart outwards. Then I'll take that measurement on chest line in order to make a replacement on the side, plus 1.5 inches stitching allowance. So now I'll also add 1.5 inches stitching allowance on extension created earlier. And with that, I'll draw new armhole curve using a curved ruler like I'm showing you, so that this other one is of no use now. Let's also measure half waist circumference on half length. In my case, I'll mark at 8.75 inches. I'll also add 1.75 inches dart replacement, plus another 1.5 inches stitching allowance. And now I'll finish up bodice outline with a straight line like that. And another thing guys, once this armhole dart is slashed, we'll have a reduced half length. So I'm going to add 2 inches on the total length, plus 1.5 inches more as allowance, and it's on the mark where I'll draw a line across like I'm showing you. I'll also go ahead and extend that line to the new drawn bodice full length. From there, I want to trace out the pattern on the paper underneath using a tracing wheel carefully until I'm done. I'm done tracing out, yet the lines are not much visible. I'll make them visible by tracing again with the marker pen like I'm doing. This is what we've got after making lines visible. Next, I'll measure 1 inch from neck width and mark. So guys, it's from this mark where I'll draw new asymmetrical neckline nicely to the left armhole. And first, I'll draw it freehand using a pencil, then make the line visible more with the marker pen and a curved ruler. After that, I'll measure 0.5 inches here on both sides. That's why it's drawn using a pencil. Then I'll draw curves again from these marks to that above bust line. Next is to replace that allowance here on side, which is 0.75 inches. And with that, side outline also has to change after the extension. That's why you see me draw another line. Guys, these areas I'm shading will be cut out completely when I'll be cutting out. Let's now cut out. Just like that, I'm done drafting front part bodice, and I'll use these to trace out on main fabric. I'm now going to draft back area on this other paper. First, let's draw back neckline, whereby 3 inches is neck width, whereas 1 inch will be for neck depth. Then I'm just going to draw neckline using a French curve ruler. From there, we'll measure 8 inches on shoulder line, and then go down by 1 inch for shoulder slope, and using a ruler, I'll draw a line from the mark to the neck width. I'll go ahead and also measure chest line at 8.5 inches for shoulder slope, and next is a line across the mark. I'll now measure 8 inches on chest line, then a vertical line for armhole depth. Moving forward, I want to measure quarter bust circumference on chest line. Side back armhole is different. I'll only draw a tiny curve like that. Again, let's measure half bust span on waistline and also measure it on bust line, and I'm using 4 inches. After that, we'll draw that depth with the mark. Here I'm measuring 1 inch down from bust line. Also measure 0.75 inches on each side of that line, and then we'll use the marks to draw normal darts. Once I'm done, I'll find armhole depth midpoint, then draw armhole princess dart from that line all the way to the mark using a curve ruler. This time we won't have any dart manipulation here since it's back part. I therefore measure waist circumference on waistline at 8.75 inches. I'll add 1.5 inches dart replacement plus another 1.5 inches stitching allowance. Let's also extend armhole dart a bit, and then I'll go ahead and measure 1 inch on the extension created. While on chest line, we'll only measure 1.5 inches stitching allowance. After that, I'll use a French curve ruler to draw new armhole curve like that. Then I'll just finish up back bodice outline using a straight ruler like I'm showing you. Don't worry if it looks awkward, since once the darts are slashed out, it will be back in its right shape. Since we didn't have any princess dart manipulation, I'll only add 1.5 inches stitching allowance this time down here, then draw new waistline across the mark. After it, we'll draw that extension and trace out everything on the paper below using tracing wheel, just as we did on the front part. Guys, I'm done tracing out, so now I'll just make these lines more visible by tracing once again using a marker pen. I believe you all can now see lines clearly. I'll go ahead and measure 1 inch on shoulder line from neck width on the left shoulder this time. Then I'll draw a symmetrical neckline nicely from the mark towards the armhole with a pencil first, then a makeup pen after. And once I'm done, I'll cut out. Guys, I'm now going to cut out on fabrics using these pattern papers, including linings. Here are front pieces after tracing out linings and fabrics from the pattern papers, and also did the same on the back pieces too. So now we'll remove all pins used first. Once I'm done, I'm going to start stitching side pieces to the middle piece by putting right sides together as I stitch from bottom to top, and same with this other side. Then we'll also repeat the same on the front lining pieces, and lastly on the back pieces and linings as well. So guys, I'm done stitching side pieces to middle piece as explained, and here is it. It came out perfectly as it should. From here, I'll head over to the sewing machine again in order to stitch on the line I'm drawing right now. Then later we'll also stitch on sides with about 0.5 inches. For back parts, I'll also put right sides together first and also stitch on asymmetrical neckline with 0.5 inches and then on sides later. I'm done stitching on neckline. What I'm going to do from here is notch all the way first, and after notching, I'll flip the lining like that, then top stitch on the lining again all the way to the other end. Front part now looks neat after stitching and also ironing, and the same with back part, which is also stitched and ironed. So guys, something else, due to the front armhole dart manipulation, its armhole depth is shorter as compared to the back part. So now we'll have to make them same, and this is how that's achieved. First, I'll ensure shoulders align, and from there we'll mark new armhole depth on the front part. With that, I'll draw new armhole nicely to the mark, after which I'll cut out. One last thing guys, since waistlines are of different lengths, I'm now going to measure the recommended length from shoulder line and mark 18.5 inches. The 0.5 inches is the stitching allowance. Having done that, I'll draw a line across the new waistline and then we'll cut out from that line. I'm done cutting out and this is it. So let's now join shoulders by stitching. This is how that's done. You cover up everything else using one of the linings like this and then stitch on it with about 0.5 inches. I'm also done joining shoulders, so next I'll work on skirt part before stitching sides. I'm going to use this other fabric to make 360-degree circular skirt. First, you fold the fabric into two with its wrong side. Then fold the second time. So now in total we have 1, 2, 3 and 4 pieces. Remember, this top edge and side is on fold. What follows next is to grab one end and fold it like this the third time. So let's do some small calculation. Waist circumference is 35.5 inches, whereas the total number of pieces after the fold is 4 on one side, then 4 on the second side. In total, that's 8 pieces. Now take total waist circumference divided by 8, which is 8 pieces. I got 4.4. And now I'll measure 4.4 inches across like this. And as I do that, I ensure the two heights are of same measurements, then I'll put a mark. Now I'll confirm if the heights are of the same measurements, which is true. So now I'll measure from 18 inches to the dress full length at 35 inches. Remember to measure from the marks put earlier. And to do that, I'm going to put my tape measure at 18 inches and measure 35 inches. I'm adding 1.25 inches and also do the same on the other side. Next, I'll just draw an arc from pointed edge like I'm doing. This is now the round bottom edge. After that, draw another arc at the top like that for waistline. Then I'll cut out both on waistline and on the round bottom edge. I'm done cutting out, so now I want to divide it from the folds. This means one part will be for front part, then the other for back part. Moving forward, I'm going to attach skirt parts to the top parts by first putting right sides together, and then I'll go ahead and stitch with 0.5 inches from one end to the other end. Same to the back parts. Top parts are now joined to the skirt parts, as you can see. Next is to fix sleeve on armhole. And I already made this puff sleeve off camera. I'll put the link on how to make one on the description. Kindly check it out. So let's fix this sleeve by first finding its midpoint. I'll make a notch at that point, so it's on the notch where you need to align to shoulder joint and then pin. And then after pinning, stitch on the pin area. Sleeve is already stitched and it's now time to also stitch on sides with body measurement. And this is how that's achieved. You stitch from the sleeve round bottom all the way towards the bodice. And since it's on the left side where we'll fix our zipper, I'll stitch up to this point. Then I'll also measure 8 inches from waistline. Then stitch the rest to the round bottom. The space left is for this long hidden zipper. On this other side, we'll only draw a line from armhole down to the round bottom edge. This is the final look after stitching as explained. I've also fixed the zipper on the space. Now we'll do one last thing, which is to attach lining on waistline. You ensure lining is not the same length as the dress. Then stitch it on waistline all round as you make pleats. Later I'll double hem on the round bottom edge all round too. I'm done making my client's lovely dress. Here is the final look. I hope you have all enjoyed this tutorial and it has been of help. Kindly don't forget to subscribe if you are new here. Also like and leave a comment in the comment section. I'll meet you guys in our next tutorial.